It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Laurie Rivers, your host, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. Well, we're that much closer to closing the door on 24. That's right. Isn't it time to grab your coffee? Get your cocoa. You could spike it if you want, because December might need that. I'm going to be getting peppermint schnapps for my cocoa. That's right. It's that time of year. My daughter and I were talking, and she was like, "Oh my God," because we don't live near each other now. She's like, "Oh my God, the hot cocoa is going to be safe to drink because God knows during December with you." Like, that's right, because it's peppermint schnapps time in my cocoa. I don't drink much, but cocoa needs peppermint schnapps. It's a rule. It's a thing. I'm going to grab my peppermint schnapps today when I go on my mani-pedi day with my mom. Anyway, who approves of such nonsense because she's like, we're old. Let's have schnapps in our cocoa. I'm like, yeah, I'm with you. So anywho, grab your coffee, grab your tea, spike your cocoa, have your milky. I know we have littles listening. Charlotte, I know you're listening with your mama. Astrologers, don't leave all the messes for mama. You got to help pick up. Okay, Charlotte? All right. Auntie Laurie loves you. All right. Just thought I'd give that message there, Alicia. Anywho, we've got an interesting beginning to the month. I'm going to walk you through that as always. I'm also going to read you a blog article I wrote in 2021 because everybody was talking about the Pluto return in the United States. So one of the things I noticed is we had the Saturn return of the U.S. Constitution coming up. And it's a crisis. It's a crisis. I did some videos on TikTok. You'd have to scroll way back because it's like 2021, 2022. There might be one from early 2023, but I don't think so. But anyway, I was talking about constitutional crisis. That constitutional crisis continues for a while. And when we look at where our government's at, it's a big one. We've got a compromised Supreme Court. Both parties are in flux, and it's almost like the parties don't matter. There's just money and power, and that's what we're watching. But we're looking at evolutionary change in how the world runs, in how our country runs, and it is kind of the age of empire, And so, are we going to go Star Wars or Star Trek? I'm hoping for Star Trek more than Star Wars, but we start out more Star Wars and we move into Star Trek when it looks at governance. And so we'll see what happens. That's a ways off. We're just at the beginning of this journey. And so I talk about the importance of magic, of making your magic, of finding your solutions, to stop the pearl clutching, to make strategies around how you're showing up and what you're doing. There's going to be a whole lot of people who don't hold their consciousness very well. Okay. It's not our job to convert them, educate them. It's not our job. We're not responsible for their ignorance. It is obvious some people were educated with no child left behind. So sad. Which would be a lot of my listeners, but I'm talking about the people who can't pull up a dictionary or a thesaurus. Okay. Google is fucking free. Talk about my patrons, because we have good stuff happening in December. And I thought, since I know all the patrons listen, I'm just going to talk about the schedule, because I know I put posts up, but I don't think people always read the post. Maybe the posts go to spam. I don't know. So I talked about it because you guys sponsor the podcast. Without you, there is no podcast. I'm absolutely enamored that so many people are supporting my work in the world. I want to thank you so much. I'm having a ton of fun making content for this month because I know we all need a little magic. We need a little wonder. We need a little awe. We need inspiration. Because it's really easy to just be discouraged. And that's no way to go through life. You know, it's easy to be disappointed that things don't turn out our way. It could be easy to be disappointed that people don't get it or don't understand us or blah, 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 blah. I'm not being dismissive of you. I'm just blah, 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 because I've been there. I've lived that. I've lived very, very conditionally in my life, especially as a younger person. And I've learned that is a great recipe for misery. Speaking of recipes, my little cookbook comes out this month for patrons, all supporting patrons at the $5 level and up. Get my little cookbook, and this year it's going to include my cherry chocolate brownies, because who doesn't need that in their life? By the way, they were amazing, and I don't normally like ice cream on pie or brownies. It was so good with this. So it's very yummy, it's very rich, it's very delicious. And so that's coming out later in December, before, the big holiday week. It'll probably come out like end of this week or beginning of next. So stay tuned on my Patreon. You can join my Patreon for free. I've got a couple of live streams coming up this month that everybody, whether you're a vibing patron or not, can join. And we're going to, I'll probably do some other ones too. I might just do some whimsical live streams, but I've got some scheduled. So I don't like to be over scheduled. I don't feel like I don't like to be in a corner in a box. It's, ugh. But I know you need to be able to schedule, because people get frustrated. Like, I miss it every time. So I did a couple scheduled. We're compromising, but I'll still show up on my whim. So you never know. If you catch me, you catch me. Kind of like how I did my TikTok lives. I never really had a schedule. Not really. What do I mean? I'm not going back on my TikTok live. I don't like TikTok. I haven't liked it since 2022. And until I took that break, unintentionally, I just privated my account because I need to take care of my patrons and Matilda's. By the way, you realize Matilda had spinal fusion surgery. Like, there are people bitching on my page about Matilda not showing up. That woman is recovering from a major goddamn surgery. Seriously? Back off. Leave her alone and give her some support. She is a very kind woman of service. And no, she's not walking anything back, but we predict things differently. So I trust her. There's shit coming down this month. I just can't tell you exactly what it is. But December's a month. So whether we're driving to work, we're folding laundry, picking up a mess again, or folding towels, going to the office, grocery shopping, getting a mani-pedi, doing our hot girl walk, taking the dog for a walk, doing a hot guy walk, or we're doing a delivery, Nate. Whatever we're doing out in the world, we're going to do it together. So let's get on with the show. It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. Okay, it's the astrologer who seems to have disappointed the internet. Oh my God. The lack of understanding of what prediction means and what conspiracy means. Lord have mercy. Okay, so prediction and forecast actually mean the same thing. They're synonymous. The actual meaning of predict means to speak of what is to come, and forecast means to show what will come. However, it's possibility and probability. Possibility is wide open. Probability is the most likely outcomes. And again, no one is 100% correct. No one. I've never claimed to be 100% correct. I say I'm 87% accurate. And if you understand probability and possibility and statistical analysis, you'll know that's really, really good. Because it's a very high profile thing, though. That's where people get confused. Like, but it's super important. So is a nuclear reactor in Ukraine. Been right about that one all along, too. Keep your eyes on that. I'm getting a little spicy. I mean, the moon's still in Sagittarius. It's still in Sagittarius as I record this. I'm still going to be cocky. Because I have a Sagittarius Mars and a 9th house Sun and Mercury. I'm going to keep going on about it because other people keep going on about it. No, I haven't been onto TikTok. Why? I don't have time right now because I'm really busy with my patrons. And people have been asking some really great questions in the Patreon. I thought I'd cover some of those. We're, of course, going over the December astrology, which is a little intense. It's a little interesting. Because we have Mars stationing retrograde in Leo. So it's going to head back towards Cancer. It's going to be in Cancer for freaking ever in 2025. And then we have Venus entering Aquarius, and it's going to conjunct Pluto. That should be fascinating. We've got Neptune stationing direct, and that's going to be, just obscuring everything. So it's just going to be hazy, wazy, mazy. I'm going to tell you, if you want to get through this month, being a Debbie Downer is probably not going to help too much. All right. In the musical Anti-Mame, when all is lost, when it looks like she's losing her nephew Patrick, when the stock market has crashed, it's 1929, she's lost everything. She comes home, tells everybody to get out the decorations because we need a little Christmas now. And she's not a very religious person. She is a bohemian bon vivant in Greenwich Village, the original aunt that the movie is based on, or the book is based on. However, she wanted to uplift spirits because all looked hopeless. Okay. Hope is in your hands, not anybody else's. I wrote in October that no one would have the emotional bandwidth to hold your hand and get you through this. That everybody has to be responsible for their own emotions. Sounds really, really cold. And if you read Psychology Today, they'd say that's a bad thing to say. Because I don't know who runs the editorial stuff at Psychology Today, but it's highly codependent. Okay. You are entering an era where the power is in the hands of those who network and co-create. If you are waiting for somebody else to do it for you, if you are waiting for the great miracle of the Santa from the sky to come deliver you the goodies, good luck with that. Just good luck with that, because that ain't going to happen. We have to be proactive. We have to communicate. And we have to be able to collaborate. Pointing fingers is ridiculous. Okay. And I'm still going to say everybody's mad at the metaphysicians. How about the people who didn't vote in their local elections 2 years ago? How about the people who didn't think that it mattered to have a House majority? How about the people who only think about the executive branch and don't think about what's going on in their county? Because a lot of the laws that are upsetting you start in counties. Where do you think they're getting rid of stuff in libraries, cities and counties and school districts? The federal government isn't doing that. The state government, in a lot of cases, isn't doing that. It's local government. And I've been banging on that drum for multiple years. If you've been listening to the podcast, then you know I'm not making fun of you. If you've been a long-time listener, you know what I've been saying. The other people have selective hearing and unqualified opinions. So I'm going to model some behavior for women. If people don't like you because they've used selective hearing, understand that's their issue. And if they go away, and that's okay. Just because you don't get what you want doesn't mean the timelines are collapsing. Oh my God. So, just had this question come in to the Awake Space Patreon, which is hopping, guys. It's hopping. Great community building. People are really on it in the Awake Space. It's very nice. Good groups of people coming together to communicate and collaborate what we need to move through the energy of what's to come. But anyway, this one is great. Brandy asks, can anyone explain what people mean by collapsed timelines? Every time I hear about it, I roll my eyes because I've never heard one person explain what it means. It just seems like the thing to say that should explain everything. Oh, Brandy, you nailed that one on the head. I've always believed that all of time is stacked up, and yes, parallel universes exist. Indeed, they do. Absolutely. On the quantum level, we know there are parallel realities. We know there's up to they've kind of identified about 13 different potential realities or dimensions, right? However, and past, present, and future, and all in between exist at the same time. And yes, on the quantum level, absolutely, they do. But the collapsed and new timeline versus old time and collapsed timeline is starting to really rub me the wrong way. So I thought maybe I should get curious. Does anyone understand the meaning? Yeah, I do. It's a bullshit excuse when things haven't gone your way. We live in a physical reality. We as humans are living in a physical reality. Yes, we do have an energetical reality where we resonate. However, as a collective, having a collective shared reality, there is possibility, which is wide open, okay, where many potentials exist, and there is probability, which is a narrowed field of what might be, okay? Nothing collapsed. Every metaphysician worth their salt was like, this election is weird. It's murky. Okay, there's stuff going on. I didn't see it until 2 weeks before the election. But 2 weeks before the election, I went, oh, this is a heist. It's a heist. It's a financial deal. It's a financial heist. It's like a conspiracy to defraud the United States, effectively. The people saying it's collapsed timeline. They're giving up their power to the boogeyman of the universe or Father Time, which is really funny because we've got a lot of timey-wimey transits happening in December. But no, time has not collapsed in upon itself. We haven't entered a wormhole. We're not in a black hole. We're on planet Earth. We are still rotating around the sun. The sun is still spinning and moving through the Milky Way. We are not living in a collapsed timeline. There was a lot of shit going on that nobody could see. That's why everything was murky. Okay, it was murky. Still is, and it's going to get more obscured because December 8th we have Neptune stationing direct, and that's just there's going to be a big fog. Okay, so have fun trying to figure shit out. In fact, I'm going to argue we shouldn't be figuring anything out right now. Just let it play out. Just let it play out. Be present. Be present in yourself. Be present in yourself. Most of the big stuff isn't directly impacting you in the moment. Okay? And you can't plan forward, even if it will directly impact you. And so many of my listeners may be directly impacted by a potential outcome should the election stand. I'm not convinced it's going to work out the way everybody thinks it's going to work out. I don't think it's going to be an Uno reverse necessarily either. But with Mars stationing retrograde, while Mercury is retrograde, and Venus popping into Aquarius conjuncting Pluto, I'm unconvinced that we're looking at everything quite playing out. I don't think December is going to give us any definitive answers. I think it leaves us unsettled. I think in general the mood might be somber, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be somber. It can end up being something magical. But you're the magic. You can't sit around waiting for outcomes to make you happy. When we talk about you can't be attached to the outcome, this is what we're talking about. To find your joy, to find your peace, to find your presence, to be grounded isn't about denying reality. Sometimes the greatest magic happens when things are going haywire, when all seems dark and lost. Harris wasn't wrong to say that that it is easiest to see the stars when it is darkest at night. Okay? She was foreshadowing with that things might get a little ugly. And yet there is that light that will be streaming through. Who's the light? You. You are. And if you're going to sit there going, I'm not the light, nothing's going to be good, you said. Wow. I'm going to say show some maturity. Life doesn't always go the way we want it. And things don't always work out to the outcome we think might happen. That is called life itself. It's not about perfection. It's not about things being easy. A backdrop has a life of its own. Okay. Just like in any meme. We need a little Christmas right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinet. Oh, we need a little Christmas right this very minute. We need a little Christmas now. It's not about the religious holiday. It's about the lights and decking the halls and eating the candy and making the cookies and having shared experiences. The sun is still in Sagittarius. Think about the Christmas Carol written by Dickens during one of the literally history's most depressing times for Western Europe and England in specific. The ghost of Christmas past showing Scrooge what he missed out on because he decided to be a young curmudgeon and a greedy son of a bitch. The ghost of Christmas present showing him all that he was missing out in his present moment and the suffering that he was causing. And the ghost of Christmas future showing what could be if he continued on his road, him passing away and nobody caring and people laughing at his death. Waking him up to the reality of the impact he could have in people's lives. Now, if you're going to sit there and moan and groan and whine and clutch your pearls, guys, it does no good. That's why in the Awake Space, my first rule was, hey guys, we don't fight amongst ourselves here. We can have different opinions, but we don't go at each other. Everybody's on edge. This is a supportive space because we grew really fast. The dynamic of a group can change, okay? We don't fight amongst ourselves here. Now, it doesn't mean be silent. You can say, hey, I see it differently. You don't even have to say, I agree to disagree. No, that's a bitchy thing to say. You can just say, well, I have a different opinion or I see it differently. That's a mature discussion. That's how grown-ups talk, okay? Maybe not all grown-ups, but mature adults who have cognitive function. Okay. The one thing I don't want to have on my Patreon, and it is my Patreon, my space. Who's queen? My space. I want a space where people have a sanctuary away from the world where they can have a little bit of respite. Yes, we talk about things in the current events combo tab, in that chat, but in the Awake Space Lounge, it's a place for things to be a little more lighthearted. The venting chamber is where you can scream into the void and where you can be frustrated. I use it too. In fact, Mercury retrograde got me. My Wi-Fi driver needed updating. Yeah. But but it wasn't working, so I couldn't use the Wi-Fi. It was a catch-22. I restarted my computer. Everything worked. I just thought it was a classic. By the way, I'm documenting classic Mercury retrograde moments on my Blue Sky account. I'm liking Blue Sky. It reminds me of Twitter back in the old days. I've put that in the show notes. If you've got Blue Sky, it's a Twitter alternative. It is for the literate. There's not a lot of videos on there. So, reading and things. So there's that. I tell you, I am, people are, as much as there are some people disappointed in me, you have no idea how much more disappointed I am in them and their cognitive abilities. Oh, God. Understanding the layers upon layers of information that went into all of that. By the way, I was going to do this last week, but I'm going to read you guys an article I wrote about the constitutional crisis that came with the Saturn return of the United States that happened early 2023, when the 8th Saturn return of the Constitution. And I made some TikToks about it. I didn't have as big a following back then, and they probably wouldn't get any traction now with that algorithm. So, but I will talk about it. Back when I was blogging on Woke Astrology, I wrote about it. So I'll read that here. Let's talk about December's astrology because it's very, very interesting. This is what I wrote in the slides for the 2024 year ahead. I did these back in June of 2023, as one does. I wrote that December, nothing feels settled. Nothing feels settled. There's unrest around the world. Climate change is very evident. Rains come in a big way. There could be issues with water rights or ecological matters. Again, Texas and Mexico are having discussions around water rights and ecological matters. The UN Plastic Summit, discussions on plastic manufacturing has broken down. Could see transportation snafus beyond the norm, and supply chain continues to limp along. This is global, by the way. Global. I heard from Matilda that they've got supply chain issues in her neck of the woods in Australia because of striking, I think it's warehouse workers or shop workers, something like that. Tech sector is under pressure, and we could see communication snafus, data breaches, and legal issues and or hacking. With Elon Musk and Peter Thiel in the mix of everything that's going on, that's interesting. After Mercury stations direct, things take a minute to get organized. Probably not the most festive of winter holidays. The collective is cautious and easily irritated. Could see leaders pass away or be removed globally. It becomes apparently obvious life is not a spectator sport. Life is not a spectator sport. It means you don't just get to sit around wishing on stars and writing down intentions and doing nothing and just waiting for the universe to say, you've been a good girl, you've been a good boy, I'm going to give you treats. It's not how life works. It's not how magic works. Okay. You don't just sit around. You got to be involved. You got to be a participant in your own life. And you can't, when you let the internet determine your mood, when you think about this, there are people with nothing else to do other than leave comments on TikTok videos, and you're letting them frustrate you. So you're letting a group of 16 to 25-year-old people in general, or 55 to 75-year-old people with nothing better to do with their lives than troll you. And you're letting them upset you. I don't know. You're putting your power in the wrong hands, my friends. Come on. I'm not saying there aren't serious matters, but if you can't do anything about it, if you can't fix it, then all you can do is put your focus on what you can control. You can't control everybody else. You can't control how they think. You can't control how they interpret what you say. You can't control people's choice to remain ignorant or be educated. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Right? You can't control all of the outcomes, nor should you even try. Some of these things are way bigger than you, and you have a greater influence when you manage your own consciousness and then you join with others who manage their own. Because going into a doom spiral doesn't hurt the people you don't like. Donald Trump isn't even cognizant enough right now to care. And he wouldn't have cared before. Okay. Very interesting. Had a couple of patrons are nurses, registered nurses, and noticed that they saw things that suspiciously looked like IV bruises in Trump's hand from that picture of him at SpaceX. The picture with him with Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago looked a little interesting. Trudeau's face kind of spoke volumes. Like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I need to go talk to somebody about this afterwards. Do I have a therapy appointment set up? Very interesting times indeed. But worrying about some things that are not even in action, like, it doesn't do you any good. It's actually hurting you. And I know it seems to be the trend right now, because it does. It's the trend of clutching pearls instead of putting some focus on your present moment. What can I control? What can I take care of? Right? What can I take care of? What can I do about this in my own life? Okay. We are born and we die, and what we do in the middle is called living. And some of that's exciting, and some of that is dangerous, and some of that is traumatic, and some of it is wonderful and magical and amazing, and sometimes it happens all at the same time. And this month, we have some real opportunities for making magic. But notice, making it. Not waiting around waiting for it to happen, making it. And that requires a focused lens. And if you're looking at everything else outside of your control and you're feeling small and powerless and unable, then your host, that's my always goal, is to prevent that, to help you see my always goal, but my forever goal, my constant goal is to help you understand what power you possess and how you can use it. So, looking back at December's astrology, December 4th is a little interesting day. We have the Sun square Saturn. I think we could see a world leader or a CEO under some pressure with that. Now, that could be Biden. It could be Trump. It could be Musk. It could be Putin. It could be, I can't remember Great Britain's guy. Okay. Could be anybody, world leader, or a big CEO. There's something going on with that. It could be also foreign agreements. Something up with NATO. All those NATO crises I was predicting are pretty much happening. Okay. We got the Mercury conjunct Sun, the Cazimi, on December 5th. December 5th. People make a big deal out of Cazimis. I don't think they're that big a deal. I think people just think the word is cool. You know, it's like stellium. People will claim a stellium where it isn't a stellium. I'm not going to go into that again. But the word sounds cool and it sounds important. So, you know. But the Sun and Mercury will be conjunct. There probably are some bombshell headlines and probably some interesting international communiques on an individual level to look at data set goals. what you want to do in the future, and not like, well, if so-and-so is president, I can have this. And if so-and-so is president, I can't have this. No, actually not true. 90% of your daily life has no impact from the president of the United States. Everything else that's impacting you is county, city, state. But the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court fucked us over with Citizens United a long time ago. And both parties screwed us over on bodily autonomy many times over. Because America wasn't ready. I don't want to hear that the parties are different at this point. They have the same money behind them. And unless there are some very drastic moves made end of December, early January, I'm just going to say, that just proves the point that the power is coming from beyond the office, which we all know that anyway. It's obscured, however. Going back to December, Mars retrograde and Venus ingress Aquarius on the same day. How fascinating that is. December 6th, Mars retrogrades in Leo, giving it an Aquarian flavor. And then Venus ingresses into Aquarius. Technically, it's within orb of Pluto, but it doesn't make its perfected conjunction until the next day, where we have on the 7th, Neptune direct, obscuring. Here comes the obscuring fog. Get ready for it. And Sun opposite Jupiter. Dun, 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 dun. We can actually see like weird economic data, like where there could be a mini bull market. Things could like rush up. We could see things. We could see things spike in either direction. I don't think we see a correction ahead of Christmas. I just don't. I think things are being artificially upheld. You can't even look at technicals when it comes to the stock market anymore because everything changed with derivatives back in the late 90s, and things are driven algorithmically there too. So. And, how much of everything is run by private equity firms, which I'm telling you, 2025 is not their favorite year. However, Sun opposite Jupiter should be a little bit interesting. We could get some news about Trump that day. So who knows what that news will be, but we'll see some news about it. Venus will oppose Mars on December 12th. December 15th, we have the full moon in Gemini and Mercury direct. I find that fascinating. So in November's full moon, we had Saturn station direct. And now we have Mercury stationing direct on the Gemini full moon in December. Fascinating, I tell you. Of course, I'll keep you up to date on that one because that'll be next week's podcast. We've got the Sun square Neptune on the 18th, and then the Sun ingresses into Capricorn for the winter solstice. Of course, that happens. That's also the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. Aussies, I see you. New Zealanders, I see you. Argentina, Chile, I see all of you. Brazil. Tanzania, I see you. I know you listen. I don't know what Santa's up to on Christmas Eve, but Jupiter is square Saturn. That's kind of, I don't know what happens with that. We'll talk about it closer too. It could be very creative, and it's a great way to make your own magic. It's very magical, but on a mundane level, it's kind of crappy. What else is new? It's 2024. December 27th, we have Venus square Uranus. And yeah, I said it that way. I didn't say Uranus this time. Venus is square Uranus. I think the market might correct around there. We might see a dip. We could see crypto dip. Remember, it's a crypto heist going on right now. December 30th, we have the new moon in Capricorn, and we end the year there. New beginnings, new structures. As always, I keep you up to date every single week. So yeah, it's a wild one. You've got to hold your own consciousness. We have some really magical stuff. That Venus conjunct Pluto, great time to really obsessively focus in on meeting social needs and looking at social support. And that could be mutual aid, that could be not-for-profit work, it could be volunteering, it could be starting a side gig that operates using the internet. It's all a little fascinating. It's all a little fascinating. It's all I got to say. So she's smiling. She's smiling through it all. In the next segment, before we get to patron shoutouts, we've got quite a few patrons to shout out. Super exciting. Super exciting. A lot. More than on two hands. I want to talk about what's going on in the Patreon, just because I know all my members listen, and this is, this is a great way for you to get a double dose of what's happening. I got out the December events calendar, did the cover reveal for the magazine for December. Predictions and horoscopes will be out by Tuesday. They'll be out for your perusing, and the magazine hopefully by the weekend. We'll see what happens. November ate up my schedule. Reading calendar isn't open yet. It will. I'll open up January. I promise. I'm just not there yet, but I'll get it done. I'm going to be teaching a lot in 2025. That was my plan. I talked about this earlier in the year because I was like, my transits suck. I knew I needed all my brain power just to get through. It's nice to have Pluto out of Capricorn and no longer opposing my Mercury. That has been fucking tastic. I taught 3 hours today to the astrology crew in Patreon. So many new people there. Super fun. Everybody got to learn that I love questions and you can't ask a stupid question. The only stupid question is the one that goes unasked. Every time you ask a question, you're helping somebody else out. So there's that. So we're going to do a little chat about Patreon, what's going to be happening, and then we'll get into patron shout outs. You don't want them, just fast forward them, but this is a listener supported podcast. All right. Listener supported podcast. Real quick to patrons. So I know Nicole's patron only segment was a little bit garbled. We're going to record probably next week and redo it. So she's getting a new mic just for you. She's getting a new mic just for you. Speaking of, next year, some of what I'm going to be teaching is how to set up a podcast, how to know using your astrology, how to set things up, how to know your content, how to figure out your style, your schedule, understanding what equipment you need, whether you want to start a podcast or a small business or a side gig. I'll have some classes on that. These will be more like workshops, like big webinars. Instead of teaching like a really long class on intermediate astrology, I'm going to have videos up in Astrology Crew, and then we're going to be discussion based all through 2025. We're going to see how that goes. Because otherwise I tighten my schedule so much, it makes it hard to support my patrons. And if anything in the last month has gotten very clear, I know that's where I want to spend my time. Patreon, because it grew really, really slowly, it was kind of something that I supported and I always gave a lot to, but it was like, well, it's not the core of what I do. And weirdly, over the summer and this fall, it kind of did. It flipped. It became the core of what I do. And to me, community is essential. Having a sanctuary for people to come in and be themselves, be authentic, and be in community with other people is really, really important. And so here it is. So Mystery School is going to be getting a lot of love as well. And we start that this month with some orientations for all the new people, and also doing some facilitation training to help people feel confident in leading meetings. Because remember, this is not a large and in charge where, you've got big boss person or big expert leading everything. This is people. I created it on the hit by the bus theory. If somebody gets hit by the bus, you got a script, the meeting can still go on. Okay. I know I'm morbid, but I'm a Scorpio rising. So, all right. Okay, up next, we're talking about patrons and what's going on in the Awake Space Patreon, both in December and what I'm looking at doing forward, because I'm super excited about that. And also, it's going to piss off the people who come here going, she's just all about her business. Yup. So I talked a little bit about slumber parties in the Awake Space, and I know you're going to be shocked, but I actually got organized and I put up a calendar of events for both free and supporting patrons. Free, I like to call the free patrons vibers. They're vibing, they're sending vibes. And so I put out a schedule, and I thought I'd give you the schedule of what's happening at the Awake Space in the Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, and I make the mistake of thinking everybody knows what it is, but it's a platform for creators of all kinds, whether they're podcasters, game creators, mod creators, 3D modeling creators, scientists, video makers, people who do YouTube, people who do TikTok. There's counselors, there's spiritual teachers, there's mathematicians, there's scientists. I mean, it's anybody who makes content that can be consumed, can find support on Patreon, including people who do music. In fact, the founder, Jack Conte, was part of Pomplamoose, and they got tired of kind of scrambling to get support and get paid to do what they loved. And he is the co-founder and now CEO of Patreon. And so you can check it out. If you look at my show notes, you'll see the note. You can join for free. You can join as a supporting member at any of the tiers. Each tier gets gets its own perks. But anyway, so all patrons, that includes free patrons, or my vibers, on Saturday, December 7th, okay, at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're doing an Awake Space live stream. I think I'll crochet or something, and we'll just sit and talk astrology. You can ask questions in the chat. You'll find a link for that on the day. It'll be I'll use a streaming software, and it'll go through an unlisted YouTube. That's not so it's not a public event, but you'll be able to watch it through a YouTube link that goes through my streaming service. So I've done those in the past. Going to do it again. And then let's see what else happens. And then Laurie and Matilda end of year party is happening on Friday, December 20th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Matilda, the real medium Matilda, and I decided long ago, actually, we thought about this, I think back in May or June. And we were like, hey, let's do a joint event. It probably won't be super long. She can still only we'll see how it goes. Right now, she can't sit for like a whole hour without having to get up and move because of her back surgery. So by the way, to anyone who's made horrible comments about my friend, she's had a major back surgery. She had it on the day of the election. Okay. She had spinal fusion. She's still recovering from that. So anybody who has said rude things about her, a pox upon ye. A pox upon ye. May the fleas of 1,000 otters invade your nether regions. Okay. That woman has been operating under an immense amount of strain and pain for years. She still showed up in service. I know people on TikTok like to think of us only as prediction machines, but actually both of us work with people to help them self-actualize and live better lives and live more fully aligned in who who they decided to be when they incarnated. Okay. So, going at somebody like that is just unconscionable, especially when you don't have the balls to make your own content. But anyway, I digress. I'll go back to reading you what's going on. I get very defensive of my friends. So all patrons, you can plan on December 7th and December 20th. That's Vibers as well as supporting patrons. It doesn't mean I won't do more live streams than that people can pop into. Those will be more spontaneous, but those are the planned ones. Supporting patrons, which means people are paying to be in a tier of all levels. We've got slumber parties scheduled. The first slumber party is December 5th at 5:45 p.m. Pacific, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. I was going to do it on a Friday, but my mom is in a parade and I have to help because she's making a float and it's going to have sparkles. Did I mention she's a Leo rising? Anyway, I'm going to help her make it cool, and then I'm going to take video, and Malcolm might be on it. Anyway, solstice vision board party. I do one at every solstice and have been since the Patreon started. Saturday, December 21st. It starts at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then we have our other slumber party. We've got two scheduled. I'm going to do two scheduled ones every month so people don't miss out, because not everybody gets all of the notifications. Nobody's being left out. I can't go to your account and be like, that person never hears about what I do. That's not how it works. But anyway, Friday, December 27th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It doesn't mean I won't do other things. It doesn't mean I won't do other things. You're not left out in the cold. But that's what's going to happen. Mystery School gets orientation and a 2025 overview on Sunday, December 8th. The 2025 overview is our plans for the Mystery School, just to be clear. And that happens 4 p.m. Pacific to 7 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, December 8th. Facilitation training open to any Mystery School student, whether you're brand new or you're an old hand. December 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. That's exciting. And then the astrology crew, we met up today, man. We did the 10th and the 11th houses on Sunday. We're going to do the 12th house later this month, and we'll find out about that here. You guys have been so patient with me while I kind of dealt with the needs of the wider group. But anyway, astrology houses 10 and 11 on Sunday, December 1st. We did that today. Plan on 2.5 hours. We actually went for 3.5, but that's okay. Astrology house number 12, we're doing on Sunday, December 8th at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern. Now, because I have other stuff happening on the 8th, I need you to plan for an hour. We're just going to do that. And then on December 13th at 11 a.m. Pacific, we're doing the Astrology Crew audio live in the Astrology Crew chat room on Patreon. So just like I do the slumber parties in the lounge, we're going to have our own chat. You can ask me questions and we'll just do that. We'll connect there, and then we're going to do another audio live with you guys on Sunday, December 15th at 3 p.m. I don't think that conflicted with Mystery School, did it? No, it did not. So December 15th is a patron day. And then Cosmic Surfers, my Lieblings. We're going to do end of year connections in 2025 planning session. Sunday, December 29th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Let's plan for 2 hours on that. And so that's what's up on deck. Can you hear the train? If you can't hear the train, that's great. The main mic is not picking up on it. But if you can, just enjoy the ambient noise. Christy of all questions is teasing me. People are excited about all of the events. I had a couple of things I wanted to read from patrons. That just touched me. Okay. We had Kathy say under my thank you to all patrons, Thank you for inspiring me to learn astrology and for making me more aware of the importance of the down ballot elections. In Missouri, we had 7 judges on the November ballot. I had to dig deep to find information on them, but I did. In the past, I never even knew they were on the ballot until I was voting. Those quote unquote minor elections take more work to make an educated vote, but I won't be caught by surprise on any future elections. And as a lifelong environmentalist, it has been calming to have a community during the hour it all hits. I often felt like I was screaming in the wind when I talked about personal environmental actions. Glad we all have a platform to buckle our seatbelts, because 2025 is going to be a bumpy ride. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for your inspiration and guidance at this pivotal moment in history. That just really touched my heart. That's when I read the part about she became aware of having to research the local candidates and why they were important. That was so important. Gabby, big thanks to Gabby W. Thank you, Laurie. These past 2 years taking classes has given me so much. I've learned so many things about myself and others, and it has given me a whole new perspective on people and life in general. I appreciate all you do. Love you. Oh man, Gabby, you know I love you. We've grown very rapidly over the last couple of months. I grew slowly and consistently and steadily. And one of the benefits of slow growth is you get to know everybody. If you are new, no one is being standoffish. There's no clicks. That's not allowed here. Please introduce yourself. Let us get to know you. I want to hear your contributions. I want to hear from you. Do your best to kind of see the vibe of how we operate here. It's as inclusive a space as I can make it. There we go. Let's see. I had a couple others. Oh, Layla Sophia, your podcast has been a flotation device for me this month, especially. I hope your Thanksgiving was swell, which it was. I had a great Thanksgiving with my mom and dad. Because this was a Thanksgiving post, kind of. Yeah. I look at Thanksgiving as a day I spent with family. It's a day off. Sweet 75 CA. Laurie, I'm so glad you came across my FYP. I became a patron follower and then a member months after. I'm incredibly thankful for you and the community that everyone has created here. And she's right. Everyone created that community. One person does not create the community. Communities are made up of the people within them. You all have helped me through some stuff with the conversations that were both serious and comical, hoping you and the community has a restful rest of your day, and that's been full of good food. That was a really nice one. Lupa, it's difficult to overstate how meaningful the community you've built here has become for me. You and your Patreon supporters have kept me company, shored up my faith in the good that remains in the world and my ability to fight for it, and reminded me to fan the flames of my long neglected spiritual path. Thank you so much for all you do for all of us. I can't even tell you the number of times since November 6th that I've fallen asleep with your voice in my ears, whether it was a live slumber party or a recording. So that's just a few of the comments that we've gotten that really mean a lot to me. My great appreciation. I have spoken into the wind a good part of my life. I warned people about 2020 for years and years and years, saying it was going to cause massive systemic change. I didn't know how it was going to change, but people need to be ready for massive systemic change. And I got called on kinds of names. That's why name calling doesn't work on me. I don't care. I'm just saying it. I'm not obsessing over it. I'm just letting you know, because I do like to poke the bear a little bit. Okay. I don't care. I don't care. But anyway, but it is always nice to hear how your work has impacted people. My goal is to create a supportive space for people to self-actualize, make connections, get to know each other. This Sunday, we had the Sunday link up in the Awake Space Lounge. That's our kind of general chat area. And I'm looking at all the talented people we have in the group. You have to scroll up to find it. If you go into chat, it can be a busy chat zone. So make sure you're intentional. Don't just drop your links. Look at what everybody else is doing too. Mystery School will start doing some things around, side gigs, entrepreneurism, because honestly, the original curriculum was designed for people who were starting businesses. I retooled it for more just generalized self-actualization, but in career and what have you. It works for all of that, but we're really going to be focusing on independence as we move through 2025. So there's that. And Venus meeting up with Pluto in Aquarius is really going to contribute to that in some interesting ways. So I want to talk about that next after a couple patron shoutouts. Well, we're going to do some patron shoutouts and then we'll do the Venus. Well, actually, we'll do the Venus and Pluto conjunction. All right, we're going to do some shout outs to patrons. Here. Without patrons, this podcast isn't possible. I don't want to take corporate sponsorships. I'm not into doing that. So everything that comes to you is thanks to the patrons of the Awake Space Astrology Patreon. So we've got in our newest patrons are Rochelle, Jennifer, Marge, Karen, Elle, Erica, Lauren, Jack, Amanda, Rosalie, Carla, Black Disney Princess, Peachy, Michelle, Megan, Jose, Reverend Allison, Shauna, Ashley, Emma, Stacy, NN, Emily, Lauren, Shannon, Aaliyah, Gladixa, I think I'm right, Gladixa, Francesca, Kay, Lily, JDTRS 76, Veronica, Miranda, Maria, Kat, Pamela, SS, Megan, Jen, Winter, Jaya, Chelsea, Alex, Dawn, Casey, Sunray, 1999, Maria, Hillary, Jordan, Natalie, Miriam, Marcokias, and I probably just butchered your name, so let me know how to pronounce it. Betsy, Maggie, Eileen, Erin, Jenna, Kim, Amber, Kiki, CML, Olivia, Morgan, Amanda, Tamara, Nakia, Tiffany, Lisa, Sam, Leva, Jill, CNA, Nia, Christine, Catherine Marie, Sarah, Devin, Mark, Jenny, Patty, Nicole, Christina, Karina, Bev, Lynn, Elena, Lab Manager 1, Catherine, Courtney, Sarada, Mama Hen, Just Neko-chan, Sarah, Ashley, Ella, Jessamine, Devin, Dip, Hampton, Twirling Dashing, Eleanor in Houston, Danielle, Ashley, Audrey, Delane, Michelle, Allison, Nikki Rose, Cassie, Stephanie, NDHD, Lauren, Kristen, Kim, Perna? Sorry, I said that wrong, I'm sure, but Perna, I think is maybe correct. Jamie, Lunar Sky, Gigi Pat, Michelle, Sammy, Giveth and then Tanketh, Joseph, Alejandra, Tessie, Yaga, Coco, D. Gurley, Bippity Bop, Catherine, Denise, Stephanie, Terraza, sorry, Sandy, Jessica, Avengers, Age of Damon, Aaron, Rosa, Kim, Marianne, Diane, Brandy, Jen, Carrie, Danny, Bree, Jenny, Bex, Jacqueline, R, Emily, Tracy, Mel, Monica, Luna 45, Abigail, Coco, Marika, Michelle, Amy, Javier, New Moon Rising, Lily, Lisa, Maria, Ashley, Alicia, Gabby, Rebecca, Maisie, Tammy, Brandy, Denise, Anne, Cam, Bridget, Tanya, Linda, Karen, Daniela, Kenneth, Trina, Catherine, James, Dawn, Melissa, Grace, Christy, Trey, Candy, Jenny, Brenda, Kristen, Heather, Angie, Melissa, Colleen, Mia, _Lauren, Sage, Waleska, Nicole, Angela Ray, Janae, Heather, Taper Snoot, Andy, La Soul, Milzen, C. Evans, Adrian, Madison, Jenny, Victoria, Zoritza, Chelsea, Guadalupe, Queen Thumbelina, Jenny, Jackie, that's Jackie B and Jackie V, two different Jackies, Amy, Katie, Allie, Liz, Sarah G229, OB, RHSN, Jamie, Amy, Ria, Abby, Sherry, Alex, Chloe, Sari, Heather from Texas, Lindsay, Sean, Susie, Terry, Kristen, Taylor, Shauna, Heather, Feather, all together, Michaela, Jackie, and Tori. Thank you for being patrons. We're going to talk about Mars retrograde. Let's talk about that coming up next. All right, we've got Mars stationing retrograde end of the week, and it's going to be a little bit interesting. Mars moving in retrograde motion in Leo makes it act a little bit like Aquarius. Okay, which is kind of weird because we have Pluto in Aquarius. So there's doubling down on the needs of society, of the restructuring of society. And we're certainly not at an end point with that. We're at a beginning point with that because Pluto is at 0 degrees Aquarius. And so things could get a little interesting. One of the things I talked about a little bit in last week's episode was like, it's almost like the rules don't matter. It's almost like fuck the rules. And I think that's why like a lot of political analysts and other professionals seemingly got it wrong. Because if the structures were working, if the game that we are used to playing was the one being played, then all that analysis would have pointed to the same place. But the rules changed. And the rules changed actually quite a while ago. They changed with Citizens United. You can Google that because Google's free. It's really good to do research for yourself. But that put money to play in a certain way. And that's why the last few election cycles have been a little interesting. This one especially. It's really unheard of to see billionaires so actively up front and involved. And like I said, Trump's got a babysitter in Elon Musk. Trump's not doing anything on his own volition right now. He's not looking good at all. He's aged greatly. He's lost a lot of weight. The picture with him and Trudeau was very fascinating. The news media is actually using a lot of old pictures of him, which is interesting and telling. He actually is starting to look his age and frail. So there's a lot of money involved. We saw that with Peter Thiel backing Vance in his runs. And then, of course, Thiel and Musk go way back to the PayPal times. And Musk he's not the puppeteer at all. He's a marionette using, Trump as a sock puppet, but Peter Thiel, I think, and maybe some oligarchs from around the world certainly have influence. I would almost bet money on Saudi being involved in some way, not just Russia, because the Twitter purchase had a lot of Saudi money, and Saudi really didn't like Twitter. So I said always that Musk bought it to kill it. So there's stuff going on that isn't the game we're used to seeing played. Okay. That's why everything is so unsettled and so uncertain. Okay. And yet everybody's demanding clarity. The collective is demanding clarity. What's going on? Somebody say something. Somebody do something. Well, I think there's a lot going on. I think it's going on in the background. First of all, the public is not entitled to every single piece of information that happens within a government. That's not what the public are entitled to. You can certainly demand answers of the Democratic National Committee. You can get a hold of the DNC. You're probably not going to get a whole lot of love. I can definitely tell you that if you're out there marching or doing other performative acts, it probably won't get you very far. Again, the way you're going to want to resist a reality you're not happy about is actually by being proactive and networking with people who are ready to do some grassroots on the ground, building up community, making sure there are pathways for safety, for the people who are the most vulnerable, and not being loud about it. That whole blue bracelet thing I heard about, I didn't see any of those videos because I actually haven't had time to be on the tiki-taki. I have been really, really busy. Okay. So, but I heard that there's a bunch of white women making like blue friendship bracelets and we'll show we're safe and making videos about it. What the utter fuck is that? Like a way to be performative and not understand how to do any form of activism. I love all these people who just woke up this year. Like I wasn't aware. I didn't know. Okay. They're like, they didn't talk about it when we were young. Really? Because I'm older than you and I knew about it. How did I find out? Oh, wait. I read books. I read newspapers. I didn't just get my news from CNN or the Fox News. My patience is really, really thin right now, and my compassion is almost a zero at this point, except for patrons. And if you just woke up, you just woke up. And if you're my age, okay, fine. I get it. It wasn't cool to be smart. I get it. Cause trust me, I took it on the channel a lot. That's what the trolls don't get. You think you're the first person to make fun of me? You seen these glasses? Whatever. So I still don't think I'm wrong about the election entirely. I just don't think we have all the information. We're just going to have to watch things play out. And I do think with Mars retrograde, there's going to be some interesting action happening. I don't know how much of it actually happens in December. Okay. I don't know. Biden pardoning Hunter was kind of interesting because he said he was going to commute the sentence originally. But I wouldn't blame him. That's his sign. I don't know what the pearl clutching is about. And I really thought it was funny. Supposedly Trump made his statement that it was an abuse of power. Really? That's the pot calling the kettle black. And that's probably why Biden did it. It's like, well, fuck this. What are the rules? The rules aren't in play. We've got a corrupted Supreme Court. We know what Congress is going to look like. It depends. I think they're having a lot of discussions in back rooms talking about how do you preserve democracy when the system has been shattered. If you think Trump coming into office, which I don't think he will, I think he's got his health crisis coming up. His December 29th lunar return really sucks. He has no power in that chart, none. And it's not just December 29th, a lunar return. That's the day it happens. It lasts for the full moon cycle until his next lunar return, which is the end of January. Okay. And you can go watch that for free. You can be a free member and watch that. That's the Patron only podcast from 2 weeks ago. My wonderful daughter joined me for that. She is very funny. But anyway, the only person with power in any of the lunar returns is actually Biden, which I thought was fascinating because he really shouldn't, for the whole of that month, like from January 7th until February 5th, he's the only one I looked at that has actual power. He could be losing that power, but he's the only one. I'm like, okay. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this, with the frame of reference that we have now. It's a different game. So Mars retrograde on a political scale, I think it'll be interesting. There might be leaks of information. There might be hints, but people need to stop. Just stop until we get into January. And that's why Mars retrograde is kind of important, because for those of you who attended the 2025 year ahead, you know that January 1 starts out with what? Mars in opposition to Pluto. Dun, dun, dun. With the moon conjunct Pluto. With the moon conjunct Pluto. I feel like playing the 1812 overture. It's a lot. It's a lot, my friends. That's a lot of energy. We start January with a bang. Now, it could be an ice storm. It could be, big weather, windstorm, wind, ice, severe weather, temperature drops. We could see temperatures really drop with Mars in retrograde, with it being in Leo. So we lose the warmer temperatures and things, dip after that. How do you use it? How do you use it? Well, I'm kind of excited about it because I was like, oh my God, I would not be ready for Mars to move forward in Leo. I got to get my shit together. I'm running behind on everything because of November. Mercury retrograde is helping me catch up. I love retrograde motion because it helps us do anything with a review, reiterate, revise. I was going to say rumba, but that's RH. Anyway, that was a joke. It was a joke. I think it's not a great time to just do solo projects. I think you want to bring in your teams. And if you don't know who's on your team, it's a good time to start figuring it out. I think it's a good time to make any adjustments in your friends groups, in your work environment. Like if you run your own business, look who's like supporting you administratively. Look at kind of how you're working in your business, how you're networked, what kind of networking events you want to go to. I would be revising my plans and looking at forward. I'd be looking at my social media strategy. I'd be looking at where I'm putting my physical effort and energy. I think that's all very, very important with Mars retrograde. And it's going to be retrograde for quite a while. It doesn't go direct until February. Just an FYI. It goes all the way back into Cancer, way far back. And then it turns around and it goes forward again. And it won't be back into Leo until April. We've got a whole lot of Mars in Cancer. And in March, it's going to be trading off with Neptune in Pisces. And that's going to be a whole lot of water. So, and don't worry, New Jersey, I won't make any more predictions for you. You can be blissfully unaware. I think that's Saturn retrograde. That threw me off. I think it switched directions. I'm still reviewing those charts because the wall of water that I saw did happen. It just hit Spain. So, but people take everything literally. A probable outcome is not the same as a for sure. Okay. That's why I use conditional language. It might happen. There could be, most likely, hey, this area should watch out. It could happen there. None of that is, it's absolutely 100% going to happen. And my daughter brought up something with me, by the way. Speaking of predictive logic, She said, something can be 70% possible and it still won't happen. And I'm like, well, yeah, it can be 80% possible and it still can't happen, like me. And she was like, what? And I was like, remember, the doctor told my mom I had an 80% chance of dying as a baby because I needed a very risky surgery on a very sick infant. I was 11 days old. I was dying. And the doctor basically told my mom, prepare for her to die. She's got 80% shot of dying. Look who's 55. Okay. So just because something's a long shot doesn't mean it can't happen, but at the same time doesn't mean it will happen either. And so I don't have a problem with my outcomes. I don't have a problem that I was cocky. Other people who are insecure seem to have that problem. By the way, 90% of the comments have been, I actually went through because I have a spy in my comment section reading shit for me. And so I went through and I'm like, actually, most everybody was pleasant, so I don't have a problem, The ones that actually get me the most, like, I don't care if people are like, no, you were wrong. I'm like, fair enough. The ones that get me are like, you disappointed me. My hope was in you. Like, how old are you? If you're 16 or 17, I will totally honor that. If you are older than 21 years old, you really need some very professional support. Because if your hope is in me, good God. I never ask people to put their hope in me. I tell you to put your hope in yourself because you're the hope in your own life. All right. So with Mars moving retrograde in Leo, gives it an Aquarius-like flavor. You want to communicate, collaborate. You want to get inspired. You want to operate off inspiration. Okay. And you want to put up some tinsel and some twinkle because Aquarius likes sparkly things as much as Leo, although I would say Aquarius likes a little bit of knife play. Be careful. Be very careful. Okay. All right. So we're going to have some patron shoutouts and then we're going to talk about Venus moving into Aquarius. Notice how all of that stuff is working together. Mars and Leo moving retrograde gives it an Aquarius feel. We now have Pluto in Aquarius making, big transformations in society, the internet, social media. Venus moving into Aquarius. So social values. We're going to see some reshaping of social values, reshaping of social media or the power in there. Might see some social media companies dealing with some ish as we move through the end of the month. And who knows, it might be some tech moguls who have to deal with some ish as well. Who knows? But I can guarantee you if there's investigations happening, you're probably not going to know about it because, people don't always say, hey, look, we're investigating this guy and give him a heads up because that would be stupid. We're not always entitled to know everything. So you need to chill your tatas and put up some lights, make some cookies. By the way, Astro Mom's Christmas cookies is coming out. Your favorite little mini cookbook is going out to patrons soon. I got to put the brownie recipe in. That's right. Chocolate cherry brownies. With almond flour. There's a little white flour in there, I'm not going to lie. But you don't have to put it in. You can do your substitutions, whatever you do for you gluten-free folk. But oh my God, it's so good. And I think we all need some emergency carbs. All right, we're going to talk about Venus after patron shoutouts. Okay, we're shouting out to Naomi, Pauline, XX Aurelia, Violet, Kimberly, Megan, Miriam, Jessica, Ty, Alora, Jay, Dana, Dova, Cindy, Jane, Dina, Chris, M with stars, Alana, Ethylene, Brittany, Elizabeth, Dawn, Ash, Bethany, Yummy Kiwi, Jenny, Ian, Megan, Elena, Verity, Essay, S.A. Ortiz Rivera. There we go. I think I got it right. Sovereign Sire, Heather, Jennifer, Nancy, Sandra, Megan Olympia, Yvette, Patricia, Kim, Ravenhurst, Allison, Michelle, Rachel, Sarah, Jeanette, Trish, Rachel, different Rachel, Sabrina, Grells, Mojo 90, Michelle, Tomika, Brenda, Ashley, Sonia, Audrey, Kristen, Stacy, Mia, Tina, Valeria, Beth, Stephanie, Janice, Noelle, Alexis, Esmeralda, Shelley, Emily, Christy, Caitlin, Amy, Carrie, Gabriella, Kat, Birdie Song, Francine, Michelle, Yo-Yo, Catherine, Rosalie, Mary Ryan, D. Gurley, Lindsay, Maria, Jennifer, Jessica, Nicolette, Jen, Lynn, Dolly, Macy, Kellyanne, Mauricio, Kimberly, Cece, Jasmine, Patty, Amber, Mamalu, Christine, Sarah, Sandra, Claire, Beeks, Christine, Pavina, Just One, April, Anna, Manda Panda, Jonesy09, Rachel, Cece Light, Jeanette, Sulkiro, Hannah, Colleen, Tiff, Elizabeth, Nessa, Archer, Beth, Veronica, Isabel, Nora, Sue, Jen, Jean Bean, Kathy, Laura, Eddie, Patty, Ben, Michelle, Victoria, Lainey, Mel, Carolyn, Jess, Natalie, Becca, April, Fathom, Marquita, Shannon, Jamie, Danny, Nia, Angie, Anna, Aisha, Matthew, Christian, Terry, Asia, Kathy, or Carrie, Danielle, Hex Kitten, Danielle, Serena, Pumpkin Spice Uranus, Gerardo, Ash, Third Garza, Maria, Paula, Peppermint, Maritza, Alexis, Megan, Julie, Alexandra, Audrey, Heather, Carly, JD, Key, Arizona Goofy Girl, Jupiter or Queen of Jupiter, Sarah, Tasha, Libby, Just J, Kalar, Heidi, Lisa, Sarah, Diana, Laura, Brianna, Lisa, Cassidy, Chris or Kirsten, Dara, Ziomara, Kay Sativa, Kathy, Deidre, Jennifer, Han, JT, Augustine, Carrie, Kelly, Shelbra, Anna, Aleska. We're going to leave it at Aleska there. All right, let's talk a little bit about Venus ingressing into Aquarius as well. I think that's something we really want to think about on how we're going to draw that kind of energy in, how we're going to use it in our charts. Of course, I'll give more details in the Patron only podcast, where my hilarious daughter is going to join me to talk about trolls. She's got some funny stuff to say about that, but we'll save that for the Patron only podcast because you guys are really enjoying her. All right, let's talk about Venus in Aquarius. All right, we got Venus moving into Aquarius, which is a little interesting. Venus in Aquarius can be a little austere. It isn't so much like Venus in Leo, which is all about the bouge, but it is about the bouge. But it's collective bouge, and it's connected bouge, and it's like getting the better graphic cards bouge. Like you want a 4090 or a 4080, and you're not going to deal with just like regular Intel Iris graphics on your computer. Mm-hmm. If you know, you know. If that didn't make sense, I'm not talking about you. But there will be some people who do know, and they'll probably leave a comment. Venus in Aquarius is crystal. It's lightning. It's clarity. It's a desire for inspiration and innovation, interesting people, unique gadgets, unique things. It's going to impact us in some interesting ways because Venus is going to be conjunct Pluto. That's like a very obsessive energy. So there's like this collective obsession, and it could be a collective obsession with truth or getting to the bottom of things or demanding clarity. And the collective demand energetically might force a revelation of some kind. I don't mean revelations like in the Bible, for God's sake. It means to reveal, to show up. Ugh. People. It's like some people haven't read dictionaries. I can't be the only geek nerd around here. Actually, I know I'm not, because patrons, so many, and we have a lot of fun in our slumber parties. But I really want to show TikTok Sean Connery's chest hair, and if you know, you know. It's rebuke thee in the name of Sean Connery's chest hair. I think with Mars in opposition to Venus this month, we're going to see some actions happen. We're going to see people, we could see some uprisings, you know. I don't mean like invading the Capitol. I don't see that, but I think we're definitely going to see people demanding and putting pressure on. I think we could see some financial instability. I think the markets might hold until after Christmas, but I would be getting any kind of, and I'm not just talking about tariffs. The markets are unstable. There's a lot of, they're building to do like profit taking, and profit taking happens like on a pump and dump, right? They push the price up real high, and then people sell off at the height of the market, and they leave other people holding the pants, trying to hold their pants up without a belt. So keep your eye on that. But I would be looking at getting anything to do with like electronics, batteries, get ready for some power outages as we move through the winter. You know, get your winter supplies, things that keep you warm, whether it's sweaters and blankies and fuzzy socks. And this is everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay. I'm not going to give locations, just everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, you need stuff that's going to keep you cool. Okay. And in some ways, it's harder to lose power in the heat because, you know, you've got frozen food in the freezer. You've got, you know, it's hard to get ice packs on you if it's hot, you know. So I would still prepare by getting any kind of electronics, batteries, etc. Any kind of crank radio, those kinds of things. All very, very important. How do you use the Venus-Pluto conjunction that's coming up to your advantage? It can be very, very magical. And with Mars retrograde, I would work from inspiration. I would really sit and meditate. And meditate doesn't mean just go to no mind, but just get quiet. Just get quiet. Take a deep breath. You know, 3 or 4 times. Big, deep inhales. And a long exhale till you feel a little softer, a little more relaxed. And then just kind of think, you know, instead of thinking about the problem, because that's where most people think, you're problem thinkers. Like, this is what's wrong, and this is what needs to change, and this thing is bad, and this person's an asshole, and this person, this. Guess what? You can't find, when you're thinking that way, a solution. Okay. So if you can get quiet and get to a neutral space, then you'd be like, what would actually be helpful right now? What could I use in my own personal life right now? What could help me connect better with other people? What kind of people am I looking to hang out? What kind of social media solutions am I looking for? You know, I'm really enjoying Blue Sky right now. Kind of reminds me of Twitter back in the old days. Which was when it was actually nice and not a cesspool. Here's something to understand from somebody who's been online since you could be online. Every single thing online starts out cool, and then the masses find it and fuck it up. Every time. Although Facebook was never cool. Ever, because Zuckerberg is the least cool person on the planet. I know he's trying to be cool now, but my God, Robot Boy has issues. Ugh. Facebook made the internet into like a ubiquitous AOL. And no, AOL wasn't that cool. I was used to an open internet and it came back to America and Oprah lied. She said AOL was cool. It was not cool. It was like being boxed in, man. Ugh. We're all going to be wanting our freedom. We're all going to be wanting our freedom. And freedom is actually more of an inside job. I think people don't always realize the type of responsibility that goes along with actually being free. Because there's nobody else to blame when you're free. True story. When I left my second marriage, okay, and it was all on me, and I was free. And I settled, I took a really long road trip, like months and months and months. I just drove. I was like Jack Kerouac. And if you don't know who Jack Kerouac is, you can Google. It's free. But I hit the road, me and Malcolm, my dog, and I just went to all these places using my intuition. I didn't like pick a major destination. I didn't have a big plan. For the first time in my life, I could just act on my whimsy. And eventually I got a place in Sedona for a little while, which was super cool. It was beautiful. And the energy there is chef's kiss. Although the spirituality, there's some real deal, but a lot of it was like TikTok. I was slightly disappointed. I was more pleasantly surprised that the energy was exactly what people described. And that was exactly what I needed to come back to myself, to find myself after years of not. And it was really easy to blame my ex, because he was blocking me here and he was blocking me there and I was weighted down here. But at the end of the day, suddenly faced with clear horizons, I had to figure out what I wanted. And there was nobody blocking me. Nothing was holding me back. I was completely comfortable. I wasn't rich, but I had enough to get by for a year, if I was frugal. And one of my big beefs was we'd run out of half and half really fast. I'd be like, he's always drinking my half and half. He has half and half in his office. No, I drink all the half and half. And I'm also the person who leaves coffee mugs everywhere. There was nobody else to blame. Oh, I have to own that. Right? When we're free, we have to take accountability. And it's not always somebody else. That's not about blaming self. Okay. But before you rail against a system that you feel is oppressive, and I'm really not talking to marginalized people right now. I'm talking to people who have more privilege than they realize. Before you rail against it, you might want to see how you benefit from it. And instead of feeling guilty and being performative and doing an apology on TikTok because you realized your privilege, those drive me nuts. And do they drive anybody else much nuts? Like, especially like the middle-aged white man. It's like, I realize how privileged I am now. I didn't get it before. Really, Brian? I'm so glad you realized this now that you have a gray beard and you face ageism. Something finally came up. Yeah. Okay. And then you'll get the crowd of like, they finally got it. Be nice. It shouldn't have to happen to you for it to be relevant. You shouldn't have to have something happen to you for you to have empathy, okay? So no, I'm not going to be nice. Pluto, in its last stand, killed my nice bone. I don't got no nice left. Okay, it's not true. I have a Libra moon, but still. So, it's really, really important to become aware and use that Venus conjunct Pluto energy to generate a powerful network around yourself. And a powerful network can be 3 people. It can be 5 people. Looking for what solutions, so you'd be like, well, I'm not really good with the internet. I'm not really good with this. Okay, so what would it be like to have a friend that needs your skills and they have skills and you can match it up? What if you can work together on that? I'm also going to say, stop projecting your insecurities on other people. If you have imposter syndrome, assuming that everybody else has imposter syndrome is probably a bad idea. Not everybody has it. Not everybody has it. Some people just know they're a little bit insecure. I really, really hate the term imposter syndrome because it's a tool of oppression. It's a tool of oppression. Okay. It's a tool of oppression. We don't really want to use it. Look for your strengths. Look where you can contribute to a team. What kind of skills do you have? You know? And I'm talking about tangible skills, things that you can measure. So this could be working with software. This could be tech. This could be hard skills. You know, you might be good at putting up drywall or putting in a carpet or laying floor or cooking. It could be maybe you're good at driving. You know, maybe you can give people a ride. You want to look at where you can network with people. Our social systems are being reworked. This is part of that massive systemic change. Part of that massive systemic change, right? It's something really important to understand. Everybody thinks 2020 was just a one-time event. It was the energy that happened in 2020 rang out over time. Just like when you bang a gong, the sound rings out over time. I've said it over and over and over again. Part of that massive systemic change is society changing. And that means you have to change with it. And you better change fast, and you better be adaptive, and you better be open to inspiration, which means like you might get an idea just pop into your head. You might just have an idea pop into your head. It might even be a little bit crazy. Okay. But I'm not going to lie. I want to think about doing creative projects. I want to think about how I want my 2025 to go. There's always going to be a surprise. Nothing is ever going to go exactly the way you plan. But if you're constantly living in worry, doubt, fear, my God, not only is your blood pressure up, how miserable are you? And are you getting enough kudos out of being miserable? Do you get enough attention for that? That it's not worth seeking your peace? I'm just curious. I'm not accusing. I'm just curious. Because if there's no payoff other than high blood pressure, then it's this energy with Venus and Pluto is a great time to blow through that bullshit and move into a greater self-awareness, a greater sense of presence, to move into inspiration, adapt, and look at, well, okay, then this is how I need to show up. I can't wait to be picked. I can't wait till somebody says, hey, you've got something. You can be motivated by self, and you can be motivated by contribution to other. You can be motivated and inspired by the collective needs. But sitting and complaining about it is going to do jack all. It's going to do nothing productive. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. And panic and fear, man, it makes you dangerous. It makes you dangerous. I was talking to somebody right after the election, and somebody, quasi-related, and they're like, what if there's a war and we have to do terrible things? And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Are you telling me you'd be the type of person who'd turn your neighbor in to save your ass? Because that's how you think. You're the dangerous one. Well, you don't know. You don't know what you do. Yeah, actually, I have. I've lived a really weird and interesting life. I happen to know I am not the person who would turn my neighbor in. Been faced in weird situations. I've actually had to make those types of decisions. So, yeah, I do know. And that's why people who panic scare the shit out of me, because I know exactly what they do in a crisis. You can be on the moral high ground, behind a keyboard, all you want, until you are faced with a real life situation. Okay. Use that Venus-Pluto conjunction to find your solutions. Use the frustration of the Mars-Venus opposition to get freaking creative. And I think what you'll see is people get pissed off at groups because people aren't doing what you want them to do or aren't living the moral high ground, blah, blah, blah. Be above it. Oh my God. You need to be having some fun, and you need to be a little quirky this month. You've got to be able to come into the Awake Space Slumber Party after dark and be ridiculous. I'm sure people quit because of that. I'm sure when they came in, they'd be like, what are these people doing? I'm sure we mortified new people. I'm never going back there. They were talking about Tom Cruise doing terrible things with fish. And then Sean Connery in a very strange outfit was rebuking people. My God, why do you think we're doing that? People need to let off steam. They need to laugh. They need to see the ridiculous. And nothing is censored. I don't censor in my slumber parties, especially. It's not TikTok. We can use bad words. We can talk about any subject. We can even say things like, we can say things we can't say on TikTok. I like to say them on my podcast. And it's very freeing. And sometimes it's very puerile. It's very puerile. It's very immature. There's absolutely nonsensical business going on there. People who've already lost their heads. Puerile, sophomoric. Horrible. Horrible. Jack, Lizzie, Taylor. I see you guys putting in your fish memes. I see you. Yeah. Don't worry. I know we only have 2 scheduled slumber parties, but we'll do a couple more. But those were the ones I thought I'd just schedule a couple. And then, you know me, I act on it. I have Sag Mars. I'll be like, oh, what the hell? It's, 11 o'clock at night. Who's up? Who wants to talk? I know people get FOMO, but that's why we scheduled a couple. Okay. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to have a couple on the calendar so you don't miss out. And then we're going to do ones on my whim. You never know. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to end the podcast. First of all, you're going to get another patron shout out, but then I'm going to end the podcast talking about the constitutional crisis that I predicted and discussed way back in 2021 and 2022 regarding the 8th Saturn return of the U.S. Constitution. And you can hear a little bit about the astrology in regards, like the transits to the U.S. Constitution in the Patron only podcast from like 2 weeks ago. If you go into Patreon, because I did that one so that even free members could get a peek at it. So, yeah, that's where we at. All right, let's do a patron shout out. All right, big shout outs to Amanda, Bella, Amir, Ingress, Lindy, Jay, Nicole, Diabolical Book Reader, Stephanie, Alexandra, Mariella, Gina, Bianca, Kristen, Susan, Stacy, Kingsley, Anna, Dan, Amy, Maya, Chelsea, Sarah, Stevie, Holly, Catalina, Charles, Madison, Michael, Megan, Natalie, Cynthia, Tiffany, BDS 03690, Lori, Danny F, Star, Debs, Drew, Heather, Jonathan, Kristen, Anna, Jennifer, Sarah, Jennifer, Bree, Pat, 2010, Kels, Karina, Allie, Sarah, Teresa, Kat, Cecile, Ms. Mojo, Luann, Valerie, Jan, Deborah, Lauren, Sandra, Amy, Taylor, Aaron, Lindsay, Teresa, Cedric, Annie, Jason, Leslie, Chloe, Liza, Emma Inky, Key, Mackenzie, Jackie, Himidine, Jessie T, Jessica, Laura, Ash, Kira, Isabel, Sydney, Gabby, Emma, Brandy, Cindy, Gaga, Anita, Brooke, Camila, or Camila, Brianna, Jazz, Debbie, Monica, SNS, Heather, Andrea, Lourdes, Martha, Olivia, Kelsey, Stephanie, Sabrina, Sarah, Toya, Monda70, Kim, ML33, Tony, Brittany, Amanda, Audra, Danny Goyle, Jacarius, Britt, Connie, Jess, Bree, Taylor, Briggle, Lori, Manny, Kate, Sydney, Alex, Christina, Sue, Olga, Donna, Carrie, Elkia, Elise, Elizabeth, Lauren, Alexis, Rowan, Lena, Gervais, Nicholas, Katie, Kristen, Ross, Toro, Meg, Nakara, Curly, Stephanie, Alyssa, Juno, Julie G, Kaylee, J-Leaf, Kalia, or Kalia, Suzanne, Jill, Yvonne, Carmina, James May Wet T-Shirt Contest, Mercury and Saturn, Carly, Landon, Sabrina, Kathleen, Cassia, Janelle, Adriana, Jenny, Heidi, Mindy, Yana, Abby, Justin, Chrissy, Kristen, Wanda, Amanda, Lizette, Elaine, Stacy, Chelsea, Israel, Clint, Destiny, Heather, Grace, Melanie, Wish, Cat, Vol means all, Alex, Stacy, Danny, Somia, Billy, Padma, Cecilia, GG99, Vanessa, Teresa, Leslie, Jim, Sophia, In Vino Veritas, Witch and Salsa, Shannon, Jennifer, Shay, Sarabara Bobara, Sina, Melissa, Cirrus, Claire, Death Metal GF, Amanda, Sam, Mac, RB, Beth, Jay, Nick Vivas, Jasmine, Texas Toast, Petita, Heidi, Michelle, Rob, Brianna, Amelia, Pat, Shannon, Amanda, Mallory, Helen, Terry, Marissa, Deanna, Lady, Pominomenon. I got it. Holy crap. Mercury's retrograde and it worked for me. Cassidy, Anita, Jenna, Emily, Chancey, Heidi, Maya, Savannah, Cecilia, Candace, Suzanne, Clara, Brianna, Amber, Katie, Messina, Gimme Coffee, Sen, Natalie, Kim, Brisa, Wandering Eyes, Tanisha, Mia, Sandy, Afua, Roxanne, Caitlin, Tiandre, Lauren, Lindsay, Angelic, Katsuragi, 59, Mia, Megan, Scorpio D, Nikki, Alana, KT, Megan, Jackie, HS, Carol, B, Tiara, and Tara, Cameron, Jana, Catherine, Reen, Kelly, Lanice, Rachel, Autumn, Jen, Ashley, Clarissa, Alina, Brianna, Dana, Christina, Emma, Danielle, Carol, Candace, Malik, Jessica, Mish, Kate, Christina, Jess, Sassy Sauce, Laura, Jelly, Lydia, Bree, Milo, Caroline, Christy, Carly, Lauren, Jet, Jesse, Teomil, Mila, Ali, Just Rare, Colleen, EC, Rena, Miss Daisy, Chancing, Charlotte, Tanya, 8 Bits, Tina, Keela, Gamal, Aaron, Jessica, Becca, Taylor, Mackenzie, Alexa, Sasha, Yorim, Cara, Nova, Nicole, Cameo, Jennifer, Kennedy, Alex, Marcella, Courtney, Jessica, Lindsay, Becky, Michelle, Bree, Jenny, Maria, Monica, Angela, Antiques Roadho, Rachel, Nicole, Bren, Emily, Victoria, Maritza, Sarah, Catherine, Kristen, Sarah Grace, Jasmine, Alex, Kiwi Girl, Aaron, Head in the Air, Sandra, Amber, Jen, Megan, Stina, Natalie, Megan, Autumn, Miranda, Darlene. I gotta stop there. So many. Okay, hopefully I don't have to start over. All right, we got one more shout out to come up. Let's talk about really how to use this energy as we go through the month of December. Okay, remember, we need a little magic. We need some stardust. We need some sparkle. We need to suspend reality for a minute and remember what's really important. And I know all of the outside noise seems important, and it is, but there's nothing you can do about it right now. So in this moment, let's see what we can come up with. So back in 2021, everybody was talking about February of 2022 and that it was the Pluto return of the United States because they were using the Sibly chart or the 1776 chart, which tells me they haven't actually studied how countries are formed. 1776 was the Declaration of Independence. Consider that the conception of the country. There was still a very long war that was fought. We weren't even close to winning it, and we didn't have a constitution until 1789. There was a lot of arguing and discussion, ad hoc government until, and ad hoc means kind of hodgepodge, barely functional. And then we had an actual government with a president and everything in 1789. And that's the chart I use. Okay. That's when we were a functioning government as we are today. Okay. With the founding document. Now, I was talking about, this is an old blog post. Again, I wrote it on September 18th of 2021, and I updated it January 4th, 2022. So, and I was probably editing typos or something. But anyway, here's the article. The buzz has been building online for quite a few years as astrologers, both amateur and professional, debate the Pluto return of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. In this article, I hope to allay some fears in regards to this event and put things into historical context. Even some of the most esteemed professional astrologers in the world seem to believe that the Sibly chart is the birth chart of the United States as a nation. I began my career as a political analyst and found astrology a few years later. It's important when interpreting political events, you have a good understanding of how nations and governments form and behave. Just like a conception chart has little bearing on a person's life because there's no guarantee that the embryo is viable until it is born and takes its first breath, there are conditions for which a nation is deemed a nation. The Sibly chart represents the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That is not when the nation was formed. It was the conception of the nation. The Declaration of Independence was a letter from the colonies to the crown declaring the intent of independent nationhood. It was part of the Revolutionary War, but there was no guarantee of nationhood at that time. In fact, the U.S. Revolution lasted from 1776 and actually 1773 until 1783 when the Treaty of Paris was signed. One could argue in that moment the U.S. was born, and we could look at the 1783 chart. However, the current incarnation of the United States of America did not exist until 1789 or 1787? 1787. Sorry, not 1789. Anyway, but the 1776 chart is most certainly not the birth chart of the United States. It was, however, the beginning of the Revolutionary War. There are no charts with 100% known accuracy for the signing of the U.S. Constitution on 9/17/1787. The time is in question. The planets, however, are what interests me, especially given the turbulent times in which we live, most notably Saturn in Aquarius at 23 degrees. It is the end of imperialism. There are many astrologers attempting to make a correlation to Pluto returns and the fall of nations and empires. There's some flawed logic involved when attempting to equate the U.S. Pluto return with the fall of Rome. 1. Pluto was only discovered in 1930, as per the understanding that energy can only have conscious influence if it's observable. The effect of Pluto on human consciousness was minimal until it was observed by humanity. Using historical references to discern how a Pluto return will play out is flawed logic. 2. The fact that the only planets with any power in the 1776 chart are the luminaries, Sun and Moon, and the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and the tertiary, Jupiter and Saturn. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were not observable and thus became part of the collective consciousness, unconsciousness, I should say. Uranus was discovered in 1781, so it was just around the corner. Neptune in 1846, and Pluto in 1930. 3. Rome was neither built nor fell in a day. Neither was nor will the United States of America. There is massive systemic change on the way, but will it be a complete fall, or will it be a rebirthing? If we're talking about Pluto, it's never about utter destruction. That is the prerogative of Mars. This will be a regeneration, a transformed nation. Whereas there are plenty of Pluto and Leo astrologers who interpret Pluto as the destroyer, in fact, I should say destroyer, it is not the only interpretation available. Astrologers Louis Aker and Francis Sayokian, in their book The Astrologer's Handbook, describe Pluto as forced evolution. Without Pluto in our consciousness, Mars is what held sway, and thus there was great rises and falls of nation-states and empires. In this era where Pluto is active in our consciousness, Pluto may not play the destructive role everyone is assuming. Not utter destruction, not a dark age-causing event. It's my theory that Pluto will reflect the forced need of humanity to adapt and innovate collectively in the face of global challenges. I do not see a world war as predicted by some medium psychics and astrologers, and what I mean by that is global thermal. What we face today is the equivalent, a worldwide pandemic never seen on this scale in human history. The economic ramifications of the pandemic and the increasing severity of climate change. These factors will force evolution for social and cultural change, because without such change, the species itself requires transformation. It's tempting to look at 222 and attempt to divine some numeric significance. It's enticing. It's almost mesmerizing. However, that is the realm of numerology, not astrology. Our current calendars are arbitrary. The orbits of the planets are not. We simply assign months and dates in an attempt to interpret the movement of the solar system surrounding our tiny blue marble. I am not gainsaying numerology. In fact, I urge you to read the blogs of competent numerologers. But astrology and numerology are separate disciplines. We will witness the conscious expression of Pluto returning to the degree it was in 1776, and there may be some political activities. It will not be a revolution, regardless of how much certain extremist factions in the U.S. would like to make it so. In fact, it's my theory that with Pluto now in our consciousness, we are less likely to see outright war and destruction, and more likely to see political acts causing change and transformation. This could be a restructuring of a branch of the U.S. government, or a repeal of certain rules in the House and Senate, as this would be occurring during the beginning of the 2022 midterm primaries. We may see many incumbents unseated. We may see a change in leadership in agencies, committees, and federal offices. And we may see the U.S. Constitution in crisis, as it too must change to meet the modern era. That is most likely to be evident in April of 2022 into early 2023, when the U.S. Constitution once again has its Saturn return. It would have been January of 2023. The list of Constitution Saturn returns, 1816 through 1817 was the first. The second was 1846. The third was 1875 and 1876. 1905, 1934, 1964, 1993, and 2022 through 2023. The year 2021 is the flip side of 1934 when it comes to Pluto in the with the outer planet having sat at 24 degrees Cancer, and it now sits at 24 degrees Capricorn. This itself is important to note. It's a completion of a cycle. 1934 was a contentious year in the U.S. and abroad, from the Depression to the beginnings of the Second World War. 1934 was a turning point. 2021 is also a turning point. Not for a global war, in my opinion, but for a global restructuring, as it coincides with the Pluto return in the Revolutionary War chart. Now it is in our consciousness. I see that as less likely to be replayed in actual terms of physical war. And I'm meaning global thermal nuclear war, because that's where everybody was leaning at it. I am often asked, when will things be okay? Or when will things calm down? I don't have a concise answer to these questions because they are subjective. Define okay and calm. We are in for a wild ride over the next decade. There will be a great deal of change and transformation. You personally can thrive and prosper, even if it seems like the system is crumbling around us. That system, much like our infrastructure, is in need of reform. And given the challenges of a global pandemic and climate change, it's my theory that humanity will have to rise to meet the challenge. A dash of the unexpected, Uranus and Taurus. Uranus in Taurus remains until 2026. The last time Uranus was in Taurus was from 1934 until 1942. This is one of the other reasons many people believe we'll enter into a global conflict. However, given the global nature of SARS-CoV-2, COVID, it's my belief that the global pandemic is humanity's conflict and agent for growth. Adding climate change and the need to innovate, I believe all nations will be embattled enough and unable to use international conflict as an excuse to avoid necessary innovation. Now that Pluto is in our awareness, we are being forced to grow and evolve. As we approach October 2021 and the immensely disruptive energy reflected in the astrology, there will be many in the spiritual community calling for the end of times, a global war, and there will be those claiming to feel big changes. Big changes are indeed on the horizon, and there are many historic events on the way as well. But a global war or even a civil war in the United States are unlikely outcome. The most likely are weather and supply chain disruptions as the fragile world economy begins to show the cracks of an imbalanced, unequal, and flawed system. As the cracks widen, things will accelerate as weather increases to become more severe and infrastructure is impacted. The people will have to accept their agency and step up to the plate. None of this is happening without due warning. As with all things Uranus, you're related, nothing comes out of the blue. It comes out of the intentionally ignorant or simply from the oblivious. These changes have been heralded by scientists for decades. The one thing that is certain is that people cannot expect a single leader or expert to rise up to lead them. Each of us must find our agency and then look for those like-minded, more importantly, like-hearted people with whom we can collaborate in our day-to-day endeavors. As we move closer to Pluto's ingress into Aquarius in 2024, the need to collectivize, communicate, and work together to meet the challenges of the upcoming decades will be readily apparent. Holding on to the Mars-driven world, which did cause the war, inequity, and destruction, will lead to futile acts and folly. Globally, one could say that the age of empires is at an end. It will take many decades to conclude. But if humanity is to take the next steps in its evolution, imperialism must end. And it will, not with a bang, but with a series of incidents that requires the whole of humanity to set aside the petty disagreements over dogma and partisanship. There will be turbulent times ahead, but within many of our lifetimes, we'll see the fruit of cooperation born into a better future. So I wrote that back in 2021. Yes, we have war, but what people are predicting when they say world war, they're talking about global thermonuclear war versus regional conflicts that kind of link up into the theaters. And so we see the theaters that were active in World War II active now. And we're especially looking at the Middle East. Most people, when they learn about World War II, only learn about Western Europe and maybe some of Eastern Europe. But most people don't ever learn about what was going on in the Middle East. And it was a very, very fascinating part of World War II. So that part's up on deck. We're seeing some of the echoes, but I really do feel that there is global conflict, but we do not go to mutual annihilation. We don't have that global big bada boom. Part of that is climate change. Part of that is economic connection. We are interconnected. Okay. We are interconnected. We're going to see a lot of where the money is at play. And we're going climate change. It's just, it's hard to predict where things are going to happen. Meteorologists have a hard time. That's what gets me when people are like, well, you got it wrong. Okay. So did a meteorologist. I didn't even study weather. So, okay. I just think people don't understand and don't want to understand how things work. They just want to be butthurt personally. I do not see global thermonuclear war. I do see in 2025, we might be worried about that. We might be thinking it might happen. I even said in my 2025 year ahead, come August, I may be doubting my own prediction. I may be going, well, it was looking pretty dicey. And then in September, there's a stillness. It stops, and it could be weather. It could be that people just realize they're being stupid. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So change we must have. Okay. Change we must have. And if we're worried about it, if we're freaking out about it, then we're not adapting. And that leaves you very vulnerable. And it leaves the people you love vulnerable. It doesn't put you in a position of strength. We need solution thinkers. We need people who can be together through this. Okay. And so how would I spend, the next week? Honestly, I'm looking for some magic. I'm looking for some magic. I know I got to make that magic. And so I'm doing things that are fun. I'm making cute little videos. I'm writing a whimsical magazine. I'm making sure that there's some joy running around the Awake Space. The self-miss videos that Mystery School and Up are getting are the cutest. Oh my God. I've had so much fun making those. So much fun making those. And I do remember I have to edit one really quick. Luckily, it's not tomorrow's or today's. It's not Mondays. It's Tuesdays I have to do. And to quote Annie Mae, we need a little Christmas. We need a little tinsel. We need some lights. We need some, why do you think so many holidays happen in the winter from many different belief systems? Because it's dark and it's scary and we have light pollution now, so it's hard to see the stars. It's hard to feel our connection with the all that is. But you don't have to be somber. You don't have to be depressed to show solidarity. That's bullshit. It's okay to walk by an old-fashioned toy store and look at the choo-choo in the window and go, oh, look at that. Or to get a snow globe and shake it and just watch the glitter go around the snowman. It's okay to make some Christmas cookies and to make some good memories with people that you love or care about. It's okay to get a doohickey to put on your desk that amuses you. The little birds that kind of used to dip. Looks like they're drinking. I used to be fascinated by those when I was a kid. Or the little barometer with the old man and the old lady. Fair and foul weather. Those fascinated me when I was a kid. Or a cuckoo clock. Or a wind-up toy. Or blowing bubbles. Blowing bubbles. No wonder I found out about Anne when I did. Blowing bubbles. And if you don't know who Anne is, Anne was my dear friend Granny Annie. She taught me to find my creativity that had been locked away inside when I was a 30-something young mom because of a shitty art teacher when I was in high school. And she reminded me you're never too old to blow bubbles. And that woman was magic. Real magic. She could love you right where you were at on the worst day of your life where you felt wrecked and horrible. You could have yelled at your kids and kicked the dog and broke your favorite dish. And she'd just look at you and say, oh, honey, what a day. Without judgment. Without trying to make you feel better. She didn't resist where you were at. And before you knew it, you were eating a piece of her homemade bread, sipping a cup of soup, homemade soup, really good soup. Especially when she made it out of her pot roast. God, that was good. Sipping a cup of coffee. Or if it was a really bad day, a glass of wine. And then she'd say, don't you need to blow some bubbles? Stop putting your hope into outcomes. Hope remains regardless of outcomes. Stop needing things to be a certain way to find your pathway. Because if you're basing everything on conditions, it's going to make your life very, very difficult, especially going forward, regardless of who's president. If you don't have a cooperative Congress, it doesn't matter. If your state is full of crazy people making decisions, it doesn't matter. I've been beating and banging that drum. So many of you want to connect with your guides, and they're all around you. They're encouraging you every single minute. They're sending you songs. They're sending you visuals. They're sending you feelings. They're always communicating with you. They are never out of communication with you. But when you're worried, doubting, insecure, locked away, isolated, shaming yourself, blaming yourself, you can't hear them. And they're never ashamed of you. They're never mad at you. They're never disappointed in you. They always are encouraging, and they're always loving you. And when you hear that little whisper, you're like, whoa, what was that? They're like, yay. She noticed. He noticed. Look for the magic, and you'll find it. But if it has to be a certain way in a certain outcome, you're missing the point. Allow yourself to be inspired and delighted by surprising things. And you'll get a lot further this week. All right. I'm going to get off my soapbox because I got to go shopping with my mom tomorrow. Yeah, Monday. Well, not tomorrow. Today. In a few hours. It's Mani-Pedi Day. Today I take my mama to lunch. And we're going to get decorations for her golf cart for the parade float that she's making. That's right. My little mama is going to have my dog Malcolm in a costume in her golf cart in the little town parade. And we're going to have fun, damn it. And so should you.